Hi, warm welcome everyone. So today we're going to talk about how we leverage AKS to build an enterprise platform. I'm going to talk about the H&M journey. And my name is Jakob Knutsson. I lead our infrastructure, platform, and developer experience teams within H&M. So why are H&M at Microsoft Build talking about platform engineering? Well, that's what we're going to focus this session on. And H&M started in a small Swedish town called 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝘀𝗶𝘀𝗀 in 1947, so over 75 years ago. And in 1998, we built our first online shop. So we've been in e-commerce for over 26 years. And H&M is a fashion brand dedicated to liberating fashion to the many with fashion and quality at the best price in a sustainable way. And today, we have 150,000 employees globally. 3,000 of them work within tech. We are organized in a product organization, and we have over 4,000 stores in 70+ countries and 70 online markets. And one thing that's really cool is that 73% of employees in position of responsibility are women. And we have a portfolio of brands where our red logo, H&M, is the most well-known one. But we have other brands like COS, Weekday, Monkey, H&M Home, Other Stories, Arket, and Afound. And for a company with a 75-year history, we've always needed to adapt. And what we've seen recently is the pace that retail has been changing. And we've seen changed customer behaviors, changed expectations, a completely new set of competitive landscape, and also that all innovation have been fueled by tech. We've been talking for the last 10 years on how software is eating the world, and also how it's eating the value chain. And now we also have the generative AI perspective on top of that. So we went into transforming our technology and to gain speed and innovation to keep up to being a relevant retailer and give our customers the experience that they need. We wanted truly to focus on being customer-centric, to create the experience that both delight and excite them, and be open and composable, move away from legacy types of integrations to APIs and events, so that we can tap into that and build new services. We wanted to be agile, to release on demand, to respond faster, and decouple our bigger monoliths so that we can become more efficient. And of course, intelligent and data-enabled. You can imagine the amount of information flowing through our landscapes and platforms. And being able to use that data to take data-driven decisions, amplify it with AI, and optimize our business from everything to production, to supply chain, to how our customers actually shop. And we wanted to have best-in-class security. And for us, it's also being in over 70 countries, 70 online markets, having that global perspectives. And looking at having data centers solely in Sweden won't really cater for the experience we want to deliver to our customers. So being global is super important to us. With that in mind, we formed our cloud strategy, saying that all of H&M Group should run entirely in the cloud, supported by an organization that can build effective and secure cloud solutions using DevOps practices. And looking back to 2018, we started our cloud journey and went into execute on our cloud strategy. First out was our curious early adopters and first movers. And we really started to work on driving the cloud adoption, at the same time enable and build a great developer experience. We wanted to cater for autonomy and DevOps and for teams to take a larger responsibility, and to really enable the democratization of infrastructure. We also built self-service capabilities and to create subscriptions or for repetitive tasks and getting certificates and DNS names, etc. And during this time, while we were working on the cloud transition, it also became apparent that we needed to change the way we work. So in early 2020, we transformed into a product organization. And I'm so proud of all my H&M colleagues that actually managed to pull off both a technology transformation and a way of working transformation just as we were hit with a global pandemic. As we've concluded our cloud transition in 2023, we have moved a large number of our applications and transformed them. Both our large ERP backbone and also the storefront for our customers, our large hm.com, which during peak times periods from October to January have extreme loads, and it's actually running on AKS. But what we noticed when we had transitioned is that as we have grown, the fragmentation and complexity of our landscape and ecosystem had also grown. And we saw that inconsistent architectures led to low enabling possibilities, reduced reusability of both the tech part and also our talent, and that with a lack of clear engineering standards and guidelines, it became hard for our engineers to know exactly what to do. And having a technical sprawl or a big sprawl in your tech landscape also gives us a very complex operational responsibility. So the challenges we faced, as I mentioned, the fragmentation and complexity, lack of engineering standards, complexity within governance, and of course, not pacing in the speed that we wanted. So we started to work on tech standardization to narrow down our landscape with very thoughtful choices, and also starting even more to use reusability. And not only from a sort of shared assets part, but also when it comes to software templating, looking into our most common archetypes and actually really building production templates of those. We started to create standards, and first there were guidelines. But it also became apparent that for a product team in a large organization to have 100 guidelines and look at them and interpret them, what does this mean for me, for my team, for my product, the service that I build, is very hard. So we needed to look into how we could codify that and actually build the guardrails that we want to enable. We also need to look into the visibility. So how can we make sure that we have guardrail adherence, and for a team to understand how they are performing, and from a central perspective, see that where do we have configuration drift, where do we need to put in more efforts. And to get up to speed and being able to deliver in the pace that we want, we optimized for our engineers and the engineering efficiency. And of course, looking into other types of optimization when it comes to resource spend, so that we can only spend on what we actually need and also cater for the sustainability aspect. And we truly believe that we want to amplify each engineer and elevate our tech standards, and that will make us both leaner and faster. And to really package this, that's how we got into platform engineering. So taking the challenges we had and package them so that we can create a curated experience for our engineers, and removing that core infrastructure complexity, making sure that we have the provisioning, default services, and relieving our engineers from that complexity. and also focus a lot on the developer experience, creating the self-service so that you can onboard easily, so that you have all the tooling in place needed to do the things, to solve our business problems, because that's where we want our engineering teams to really focus, solving the complex problems and enhancing our business and offerings to our customers. So platform engineering gives us a better velocity, governance, and visibility. And our teams can work really independently. We look into everything from the developer productivity and experience, and also how we can operate at scale, how we can scale up, scale down, in and out. And the observability of both how your product or service that you're building, how that is performing, and also how our customers are experiencing that. So if you don't know exactly how your product performs, it's very hard to focus on the right things when you work on it. We make sure that the platform that we build have the reliability and performance that is needed, that we have the high availability and disaster recovery, that we are in the right regions, in the right zones. And for this, and we also make sure to have our security standards enforced, and overall governance when it comes to guardrail adherence and other things. And to put this into a concrete examples or an internal success story, we had one of our portfolio brands called Weekdays that was replacing their e-commerce solution. And our platform teams started to collaborate with the Weekday team really early on, looking into both the platform needs and their software template. So when COS, Arket, and other stories, other portfolio brands went in to do the same journey, they could start with a baseline of an optimized product in production and be working on what's differentiating for them from day one and not day 90. And that's truly sort of the magic and beauty of platform engineering, getting up to speed and being having your standards adhered. So looking in a little bit on the software templates, it's everything. It's a reference implementation of a production workload. So everything close to the code, to build and deploy, to having a running production workload. And also, we cater for this to be provisioned directly from our internal developer portal via self-service. So you can just create it on the fly when you need it. And zooming in a little bit on our platform, we provide a multi-tenant internal developer platform based on AKS, Kubernetes. And we're spread in 3 strategically chosen regions at the moment, but it could easily be expanded based on needs. And no matter where our team provision their product or service, the experience is identical. And it's all maintained by our central platform engineering teams. And we treat our platform as a product. And looking into a little bit on what our platform team solves then. It's everything starting from AKS layer with the clusters, making sure to remove that infrastructure complexity, that we have the provisioning, auto-scaling, and state in place, having network out of the box when everything called from IP ranges, from firewalls, DNS certificates, etc. Making sure that we are in the right regions, as I mentioned, that we have the high availability and disaster recovery options, the lifecycle management of infrastructure, the enforced security standards and best practices, and also the integration then to provide a great developer experience. and focusing on cost management and how we can optimize and enable at scale. And we are organized in the area for our platform engineering in 4 different teams. We have our platform team, which is focusing on the robust infrastructure, maintaining our clusters and AKS. And we have our template and scaffolding team that are collaborating with the product teams out in the organization and looking into the common archetypes and providing and building these templates jointly with them. They also look into how we can tie together the full developer experience so that we have that seamless experience from onboarding to actually running things in production. And when we are in production, our SRE team steps in and helps the products that goes on top of the platform so that they can perform in a great way. Lastly, we have a team looking into our developer portal. That's where our self-service lives. That's when everything starts. It's also where we have the visibility to know how your product and service performs, to where you can see guardrail adherence. And we also front things like DORA metrics. So how are we actually performing in our development lifecycle, and fronts that to our teams. And for us, it has been super important to sort of regain the control and build a cohesive landscape to enable us to be faster, to be delivering a great experience to our customers, to set the right standards and design it right from the start. And that's looking at everything from architecture, from the technology choices, from the tools and platforms, and even templates and languages. But more important is, of course, to stay right. And that's where we use then guardrails and policies. And where policies today doesn't cover it, we use automation. And we enforce security, even as close as to the code, and to running services in production. And creating visibility for our engineering teams so that they know how their service performs and how they adhere to guardrails. And the observability so that they know how their product operates. And to further cater for a good developer experience, we've been working very early with GitHub on GitHub Copilot Enterprise. We were in the private preview. Now we have scaled that to over 700 engineers. And we've done a lot of training, and we have a lot of training upcoming as well, both for our staff, but also to train the GitHub Copilot Enterprise on both our knowledge bases and our code bases. And something that we have done, which I think is really cool, is we've created a separate GitHub organization where we have our GitHub actions, which we called H&M action. And that is where all the automation, self-service, shared assets live, so that not every team needs to reinvent the wheel. And we are really preaching that we want to have a collaborative effort and promote inner source. So for those of you that don't know inner source, it's the same as open source, but within the company, so that we can share the knowledge of our products and service and build it together and have that collaboration going in place. And transparency also with open repos where you can understand how are other people solving this, because that will make me faster as well. And for me, standing here today, representing our infrastructure, platforms, and developer experience teams, our vision is to provide frictionless tech so that the rest of our organization can really build the services to delight our customers. And zooming in a little bit on what's next, We still have migrations that we need to or want to do into the central platforms, where teams today run their own AKS clusters. We need to narrow down the technology stack a bit more. But we truly believe that having a cohesive tech landscape and the standardization, that really helps us to support our business so that they can be innovative, so that we can be scalable, and also have the agility so that we can respond faster. And we're also exploring Gen AI, from code assistance to also how it can help us get insight and running our platforms. And I think in a very near future, we will have Gen AI assisted platforms. And I would encourage you to go to hnm.com to pick out a few garments for the summer so that you all look good. And if you find what I've been talking about interesting, you can also go to our career site. So I truly believe that platform engineering gives us a faster innovation, higher quality software, and improved delivery lead time. And I'm soon handing over to Ali and Alvin from Microsoft, who are going to talk about how you can build and architect an enterprise platform with AKS from a Microsoft perspective. But before I end, I want to finish with a quote from our founder, 𝗬𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗻𝗁. "The secret to our success, there is no secret. The industry is so dynamic that it's absolutely necessary to constantly renew yourself and have a flexible mindset." And that was true 75 years ago, and it's true today. And with that, I want to end and hand over to Ali and Alvin. And my name is Jakob Knutsson, and I'm from H&M Group. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Ali Ford, and I'm a product manager on the AKS team. We'll be joined later by Alvin as well, and he's also a product manager on AKS. We're going to be talking about how you can architect your platform with AKS. Thank you again to H&M for sharing about their team's challenges and priorities. As we just saw, and I'm sure plenty of you know, platform teams play a really critical role in providing services and setting standards for your development teams. With AKS, we can help to make their jobs a lot easier, and we hope to show that today. When you're architecting an enterprise platform with AKS, there are some key areas which platform teams should keep top of mind. We mentioned these earlier, and some of these which H&M has found challenging. We'll continue to build on those same themes in this next section. Starting with the theme that H&M mentioned, design right and stay right. Looking at developer productivity and operations at scale, we'll focus on that design right concept. And then looking at staying right with observability, performance, reliability, security, and governance as well. Starting with developer productivity, but we're going to look at it from the platform team perspective. H&M highlighted their focus on developer productivity specifically in standardization and deploying to production on day 1 instead of day 90. These are common goals across many of our enterprise customers on AKS, and it provides significant value to the platform team as well. I want to highlight some of these areas here where we can deliver value through increased developer productivity. So first is reducing the time from onboarding to productivity. When you have a new engineer on your team, they are onboarding both to your platform team, but also to Kubernetes or AKS as well. There's a huge learning curve for them to get over. You can leverage intelligent assistance just like H&M is with GitHub Copilot, and your developers will be able to learn and troubleshoot within GitHub. You also can see value if you are able to focus your resources on the day 2 operations, so essentially quality and improvements instead of that setup and configuration. If you can deploy quickly with AKS best practices, you can focus on those day 2 operations. We have 2 new features, AKS Automatic and Deployment Safeguards, that can help you do that, and we'll show a little bit more about those. So GitHub Copilot for Azure, if you haven't seen, it is in private preview. It is very helpful for developers to learn about their Azure resources and best practices. They can explore and manage Azure resources, and it helps them to troubleshoot and optimize their applications on Azure quickly and easily. The benefit here really is that they're not needing to navigate away. They can stay right in GitHub, get that guidance that they need when they need it. And next is deploying quickly with AKS best practices. As a platform team, it can be really beneficial to deploy quickly, but you don't want to sacrifice that quality. It's common for Kubernetes resource misconfigurations in deployment to cause issues later on. And we want to really prevent those issues by preventing the misconfigurations at the start. So we can incorporate best practices into your Kubernetes deployment to do that. We have two features here, deployment safeguards and AKS automatic. Deployment safeguards specifically has built-in best practices from our AKS experts, which are enforced through either warnings or alerts. So your engineers, while they're building a new cluster, for example, when they do something that's against those recommended policies, they'll see those warnings throughout that process. We also have AKS Automatic. We had a separate session on that yesterday, so feel free to catch the recording for all the details. There's a demo and everything. And that really helps to reduce the time to get production ready by having built-in best practices and safeguards. It has ready-to-use templates, and it can help you get from code to Kubernetes in minutes. And it really goes back to that importance that H&M highlighted of having that standardization to help you become production ready on day 1, not day 90, and designing right. Next, we're going to talk about operations at scale. So some of these challenges that platform teams can encounter, essentially when the platform is growing or operating at a large scale. H&M highlighted a lot of these in their cloud journey. You know, at the start, they may not have had a lot of these in mind, but as they continue to grow, they experienced increased fragmentation and complexity. We really want to avoid that and allow you to scale as high as you need to without experiencing those issues. Some of the other challenges that you might see, educating and training developers and operators. As you grow, your organization grows with you, and there's more and more people to train. So we want to make sure that they have the information that they need, and they're able to find new information, new features, new parts of AKS that they need to know about really easily. It can also be difficult as a platform team to have visibility into your platform. So there are some improvements with the Microsoft Copilot for Azure that gives you that visibility. You also will have increased complexity with scale as you manage cluster and application resources across the development teams. So we'll talk a little bit about Kubernetes Fleet Manager, which can help with that. As you grow as well, often your costs do too, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. It can be really difficult to reduce costs, especially if you don't have visibility into those costs, especially when your costs are distributed across multiple teams. So we'll talk a little about AKS cost analysis and how that can help you. And then lastly, we want to ensure your platform can grow with you and with your business. We have 5K node scale, and we want to make sure that when you're reaching that scale, you're doing it on a reliable and performant platform. So let's highlight Microsoft Copilot for Azure first. It can help you educate and train your developers and operators by doing these things. First, it can provide best practices and recommendations. So this is really helpful when you reach a decision point. We have an example here of, for example, a networking decision point or a security decision point. You can get that guidance really quickly without having to search through all of our documentation, and you can get it right in the Azure portal. There's also help with common developers tasks, such as YAML generation. And we have a new upcoming AKS actions, which actually performs those actions for you. So an example here of auto-scaling or updating an image for a node pool. And lastly, it helps troubleshoot and diagnose issues. So you can, similar to providing the best practices, you don't have to search through all of our troubleshooting documentation, our GitHub. You know, all of that should be there for you right away when you need it. So you can get help for those common issues that you might run into. As a new developer and operator, this can really help you become familiar and start executing on new tasks and can help you become productive a lot more quickly. There's also some features that specifically are really relevant for platform teams. So we have getting resource information, which Specifically, I like to think of this as, say my platform, I want to move all of our clusters to long-term support or LTS. Basically, what I would want to do is first understand what is LTS. So I might ask Microsoft Copilot for Azure what it is, when is it recommended, and what's the supported version for LTS. After doing that, I can use this Git resource information to actually get all of the clusters and what version they're on, and that can really help me plan out the upgrade process. So how many engineers do I need? How long is it going to take me to upgrade? And kind of use all that information that you're getting at a cluster level really quickly to do that. We also have the Azure Monitor KQL query generation. So this is really helpful as well for looking at trends or insights across your platform. When you're operating a platform at scale, you should also have control and visibility into cluster and application resources. So we do have Kubernetes Fleet, which helps with that resource management, and it does that across subscriptions, across resource groups, and regions. There's some familiar features you might be aware of: multi-cluster visibility, multi-cluster upgrade, and cluster configuration. We have a couple new ones we want to highlight today, and we'll show a short demo in a second here. But highlighting intelligent workload placement and override. So when you're operating and managing a multi-cluster environment, workload placement without clear visibility can cause excess resource spend. With intelligent workload placement, we can help to place workloads on clusters based on resource availability or compute costs. We'll see that in the demo, and that's really helpful for managing multiple clusters and being able to see where to fit those workloads in. And again, it can help to maximize your resource usage across multiple clusters and inherently reduce your spend there. All right, so we're going to show 3 scenarios here, looking at different ways that you can place your workloads. We're going to start by checking our hub cluster for the member clusters that are registered to that hub cluster. And we'll see that there are 3 member clusters here. You can see it at the top there. Keep an eye on that top because you'll see a lot of important information on the differences between the clusters. We're going to start with a placement policy that schedules the workloads to the clusters with the lowest per CPU core cost. If you look at the top there, you'll see that that's actually the first one. And when we do that, the available memory and the CPU will go down for that one as we place the schedule on that specific cluster. We can look at a similar application, and with a specific, there you see the memory go there. The next one, we can see a policy that is going to be looking at the clusters with available memory greater than or equal to 16 gigabytes. And in this case, it's both the second and the third cluster. So essentially what you're going to see happen is as those get scheduled onto those, again, the available memory and the CPU will go down. So we'll watch as that happens, and you see that reduces there. And that's when it's being scheduled onto that cluster. And then we have our third scenario, which is a scale-up scenario. So we're going to look at a 10 replica app, and it's going to have 2 scheduling conditions. So again, you can add on multiple conditions. This is going to look for the cluster with the lowest node count and the lowest per CPU core cost. And as we do that, that one is the first cluster on the list, and you'll see that the node count is going to actually increase from 3. And there we go, to 11. So again, those are 3 different scenarios that you can use that new intelligent workload placement feature. Instead of essentially having a specific cluster that you want to put your workloads on, you're actually having an informed decision with cost and resource spend in mind. And with resource and cost spend in mind, we have as well the AKS cost analysis add-on. This is generally available, and it helps to monitor and visualize costs. This really bridges the gap between the developer and the platform team. It is a dashboard in Azure Portal, and it has cost breakdown by Kubernetes constructs like namespaces and clusters. And it's built on top of the vendor-neutral open source CNCF project OpenCost, and we're also maintainers of that. All right, now continuing on the theme of visibility, Alvin is going to now discuss how observability tools like Prometheus and Grafana can benefit your platform teams. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. So now to talk about observability. When we were looking at observability for platform engineering teams, we realized that there wasn't a lot of easy tools in the cloud native space. Sure, there was Prometheus, but there was Victoria Metrics as well, but which one would you use? And so we worked together with the Azure Monitor team in Microsoft to build a managed service for observability for your Kubernetes clusters. So we provided managed service called Managed Service for Prometheus, and we linked that to Azure Managed Grafana, allowing you to directly port your metrics out of the box and into Grafana with custom configurations already set. And so this will allow you to easily, when you create a cluster, already have access to metrics that you didn't have before. And this is just a start to the continued improvements that we're adding to both the Prometheus and the Grafana suite to make it better and easier on Azure. Next, I want to talk about platform reliability and performance, as those are very important. So when we look at platform reliability here at AKS, we look at it from really two ways. How can we make AKS more reliable for you? And how can we make it easier to build reliable platforms on AKS as well? So let's take a look first at the internal AKS reliability. We don't typically actually share a lot of the internal improvements that we make. It's not because we're not proud of it, but because we believe that these are important and what we should be continuing to do fundamentally. These are the requirements that we have to provide a good product to you, the customer. And so these are just some of the things we'd like to share today, but we're constantly making improvements throughout this whole entire time. So when we look at AKS reliability, we look at it from many different fronts. The first front we look at is the control plane. Obviously, the control plane is the main managed service of AKS. And we noticed quite a few issues during this time. We noticed that when we upgraded the API server, as it rolled its upgrades, there would be blips in the API server success rate because when an API server pod goes down, it essentially didn't transfer its connections over. And so we built a level 7 load balancer on top of the API server so that now when we do upgrades, it's a seamless upgrade transition. Next, we added API breaking change detections, as Kubernetes will deprecate APIs pretty often. And so we wanted to make sure that when you do an upgrade, that we detect and catch all those changes so that you don't break your cluster before the upgrade happens. Next, we also looked at it from a platform perspective. As AKS is built atop of a lot of other Azure resources, we want to make sure that those resources are being used and are being built properly as well. And so we worked with quite a lot of other Azure teams to make sure that we're constantly improving the platform underneath us as well to provide you a better platform. So some of the main things that we did was we worked with the VM and networking team to build an entire new stack that it's both more faster and more reliable as well. On top of that, we're also working with the Kubernetes open source as well. We are a big maintainer in the cloud native space, and we look at quite a lot of things. A recent thing we noticed was the max queue default was set randomly at the very beginning of the Kubernetes build without any real reason. And so we're working right now on that to make sure that we set it to a better default that makes sense for customers today. So we're constantly adding to reliability across the board. On all three aspects. And on top of that, we're also adding into the portal as well with Azure Advisor, which I'm going to show on the next slides. So Azure Advisor is a recommendation portal for us that we added into the Azure portal service. As you can see here, there's a bunch of different recommendations that you can have, and they're just recommendations to build better reliability and performance for your clusters. So they're both in the overview page, as well as in the monitoring slide on the Azure Advisor recommendation slide. Now let's take a look at one of them. So when you click into them, they'll either take you to a workflow that will allow you to enable it on your cluster, or the direct documentation that will teach you how to do it to get the right settings for your cluster. Next, let's talk about the usability aspects of AKS. Again, reliability for us also means making sure that when you perform an action on AKS, it does what you expect it to do. And so we're adding quite a lot of features in this space to make sure that that's the experience that you have when you build your platform on top of us. Like Jakob said, platform is a product now. And so for us, we want to make sure that you have a good product. And so there are quite a few things that we're adding over the time in the upgrade space, a bunch of different features that will allow you to have better fine-tuned control of your platform. The key that I want to mention is max unavailable. This is a very interesting one because when you look at it, what essentially it's doing is it's allowing you to choose nodes on your cluster already, active nodes, and saying we can make these unavailable. However, this is allowing us to enable GPU skews as GPUs are very hard to find these days, to build and upgrade their clusters without having to surge in a new node. Next, we're giving you more control of your nodes as well by adding a new API directly to delete and control and list the nodes that you have. So you can get node information through Azure without going through kubectl. And you can also delete specific machines instead of just scaling down and letting us choose the machines for you. And finally, we're also adding a feature for test clusters, so please don't use this in production. But it allows you to ignore your pod disruption budgets when you're trying to delete an agent pool. And so when you're trying to delete a test cluster and those pesky PDBs block you, you can now ignore them. Again, please use this only on test clusters. On top of that, we also look at scale, as scale is quite important for customers as well. But when we talk about scale, as Ali mentioned, we are now able to scale any cluster up to 5,000 nodes without any support tickets, without any special requests. But you can scale up a 5,000 node cluster, but you also need it to perform fast as well. And so we wanted to really add and enhance the speed at which you get your nodes. And so we're continuously making improvements here, but with the latest VM and networking stacks, we're able to get a node ready within 83 seconds, and this is schedulable. On top of the node provisioning time, we're also adding a lot of other features, such as in application scaling. We added artifact streaming that works with ACR. So now you get 20x faster pod scaling at times for your larger images. These are all just some of the features that we continue to do to add to the performance of AKS to make it more responsive to you, the customer. Now let's talk a little bit about platform security. Obviously, every platform needs to be secure. And so we add a lot of features from build time all the way down to the cluster level that looks at security for you. In application security, we added confidential containers, which will allow you even more fine-tuned security for your pods. In node security, we have upcoming IMDS restrictions, which will restrict which pods have access to IMDS. And in cluster security, we have network isolated clusters coming up, which will completely block egress for all your clusters so that you will not be able to have any data exfiltrated without your consent. And so these are just some of the aspects that we're looking at to constantly improve on the security of the platform. Now, finally, let's talk quickly about governance. So governance for us means, as Jakob mentioned, we want to make sure that when you design right and you stay right, we can help you stay right. And so we added mutation policies within Azure Policy as well. And these will allow us to directly mutate and change a policy, change your resource requests to make sure that they have compliant configurations. And this works with deployment safeguards as well. So if you have a YAML file that doesn't have resource limits, we will add default resource limits for you, as well as a host of other avenues here as well. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining this session, and also a special thank you to Jakob and H&M for flying all the way from Sweden to come here and present with us. We have a wealth of resources if you'd like to learn more about platform engineering on AKS, as we have AKS announcements at Build. We have a platform engineering guide as well on Microsoft Learn. And as Jakob mentioned, there's the H&M Careers website as well. Also, we have a lot of other sessions as well, so feel free to attend those or check out the recordings afterwards. Thank you.